Good morning, and what a great reception yesterday. I had so much fun with all of you. And today I have a very special treat. My friend Sal, he's a master musician, so he's gonna make me disappear from stage right now. Okay, you wanna watch that? You ready for that?
No.
Oh, it did work, Sal.
But we'll do another trick.
Okay,
So,
do a card trick.
So now, when you come to Texas, do you have some places to go, some things to do usually?
Yeah.
But can I recommend one for you?
Sure.
One thing. So I have, whenever I travel, I put together a deck. This is my State of Texas activity deck. And if we just get the cards out. So on the back of all the cards, I don't know what it looks like there, but there's 52 things to do in Texas. So Pascal, we didn't arrange this ahead of time. Name any card in the deck.
Ace of spades.
Ace of spades. That's there. Okay. So you pick the Ace of spades. There's 52 things to do. And yours is to kick off GNE 2024.
Right on. Let me have that card. Thank you, Sal. Perfect segue. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate it. You know, this NaaS has all been a contribution to the leadership team, the staff, the members. It just goes on, but it also all about you. So let's get going and talk about really the state of the NaaS. I'm going to cover really, three major areas. What has happened, from 2023, we launched NaaS, which was really, really awesome. And we've seen some great progress. I'll just cover that briefly, but I'll talk about the three takeaways. Now, there's going to be a quiz when you leave the conference to make sure you're going to have that three takeaways. So make sure you remember them. And then finally, the evolution of NaaS, and we'll talk about that. So as you know, MEF defined last year this idea of what we think NaaS is. Now, NaaS has been around for a decade plus, but it was an old NaaS. It was a NaaS that connected sites and data centers, and it had no idea of clouds or cybersecurity or all the modernization we see today. So I'm going to walk you through the NaaS that we see it in MEF, and certainly it will continue to evolve. First of all, many of our members have underlay transports, and this is Carrier Ethernet. Obviously, we came from Carrier Ethernet backgrounds. They have fiber, they have wavelengths, they have all kinds of IP VPNs and IP services. That's what we call this on-demand, connectivity layer. And that's really fundamental. I'll talk about that as a use case coming up here. But then we also see that the world has evolved into this overlay model. So SD-WAN has become very predominant in all of the enterprises that are using it. And then finally, cybersecurity is top of mind. We know it's going to go on a $10.5 trillion economy by next year. So that is mind-blowing. And I know I've been hacked with my own name in the Social Security in the dark web, and that's very common now. And that was very disappointing, and I can't do nothing about it. And finally, there's the multi-cloud journey. Everybody wants clouds. My wife sometimes tells me I should go up to a cloud and never show up, but that's another story. But anyways, don't tell my wife. And then finally, all of this has to be tied by automation. So automation is very, very critical, and I think if you miss the automation, you don't really have NaaS. So I'll cover that in more detail. And finally, you see automation to the ecosystem, and you see automation to the enterprise. And that's really what MEF's specializing in, is that automation in the east-west direction. Think of it that way. And there's all of this, this cloud, and this multi-cloud, and this NaaS, and all of this comes together because organizations generally don't want to build these things. They want to own it. And you'll see that they'll want parts of it, and some of the things they'll build their own. So let's just go to it. So in 2023 to 2024, we know that basically enterprises are on a major digital transformational journey. They're top of mind that they're working on. Cybersecurity is really very, very important. It's, like I said, it's a $10 trillion economy, and we're only spending about $200 to $400 billion right now combating it. So it's not really effective. And that's going to go to 1.5 trillion over the next decade. So that's good. But cybersecurity is top of mind of every enterprise. The second one is they think about clouds. It's going to be a $1 trillion business here coming up short. It's I think 940 billion for next year. So it's large. Everybody thinks the cloud. You know this. And then finally, Gen AI's got everybody's thinking about it. How do I use Gen AI? So today it's 200 billion, go to 450 billion next year, and it'll continue to go exponentially. So that's top of mind of what enterprises are thinking, and networks, especially NaaS, becomes very critical to that part of their equation of how to make this all happen. So think of that. Second, you do not have NaaS unless you have an ecosystem that's automated and fully automated so it looks like a cloud delivery model, because no one wants to wait 6 months to turn up anything. So this is all about a cloud delivery model that is very fast. Finally, we see more and more NaaS use cases coming out for wholesale and for retail, and we're seeing all the members I travel and talk about NaaS. And there's a journey to NaaS. It's not like you have to build it finally and then launch it, and I'll talk about that journey. And finally, on our last NaaS blueprint last year, we had version 1 come out, we had 650 companies download it. So really a great interest, and NaaS version 2 is, I think, released today by Stan, and it's really brilliant because he's done a really, really great job, so kudos to him. So what are the use cases? I'll have to move here a little fast. So the first one's on-demand connectivity. I believe that if you just do this, it's okay. That's your start of your journey. Many of our members come from transports, and as you can see, it starts with the journey of the enterprise on the left, comes to the retail provider, and says, hey, I want connectivity, wavelengths, IPVPNs, IP, carry Ethernet, to all these geographical locations. Obviously, the service provider doesn't have all those locations in their footprint, so they have to automate to their partner ecosystem. And that's what MEF has enabled our LSO APIs to do all of this. So this is very powerful. And we've got all of this working in our APIs with all of those service definitions I showed you. So very, very powerful to turn it on demand, and make the connection happen, and test it, and operate it, and get performance in full is the ideal goal. And it should be able to be done in seconds to minutes, not months to years sometimes. So that's very critical. The second one is we see application assurance is a very good use case. The idea that SD-WAN, we're seeing deployed everywhere, is an overlay technology. But when enterprise comes to a service provider, they're saying, I want all these sites across the world. Can you provision those local loops for me? Because I don't want to go bring my own loops across the world. And so the SD-WAN provider says, yeah, I'll do that for you. But then they have to go provision these local loops that are not on their footprint for IP VPNs, and so on. And so that's another use case of how this happens. And our APIs in the east-west direction do this automatically and support it today. And I'll talk about that full life cycle of that API as you're coming shortly. The next one is cybersecurity. We know many providers operate SASE clouds, and SASE is being big. We'll talk about our SASE cert. But again, what happens when an enterprise comes to a provider and say, hey, you're my SASE provider globally, please provide the cybersecurity for me. But they might not have SASE bits or appliances in parts of the world. So they might have to get data center power and space, put up their service, or they might get a virtual edge compute and put their bits there. Or they might say, look, in some instances, I'm just going to co-locate with a SASE provider that operates it from the cloud, and I'm not going to operate. So all of these are possibilities, and our APIs support all of this. And for SASE, it's a really powerful. We already have power and space, we have edge compute, and now we're building right now a SASE payload for this use case, and I'll talk about that coming up here shortly. And finally, clouds. The on-ramps are to clouds. Everything is becoming a cloud. We need to make the experience frictionless. And as you talked about, as Mark and Paul talked about, they've open sourced the platform to allow the APIs to convert from anything of MEF's APIs to anything proprietary. So you can see the little adapters on the right. That's all done really well. You can see middle mile players play a very predominant role because they might have connections to thousands of cloud providers, and they'll make that connection using our MEF APIs and then proprietary to the back end. Or providers might also have certain connections to hyperscalers direct, and that's all okay. Any of the above are okay. So this is our multi-cloud kind of use case. So those are the 4 use cases, and we'll quiz you at the end. So the 3 takeaways for GNE. Number 1, I am so proud that on my career, this has been one of the major achievements I feel that I'm proud of, is that I can finally tell all my friends, my family, that we have a certification to protect society. This certification is real. It tests for threats. It checks for application performance. It checks for policies. It is all based upon 3 fundamental pillars: an SSC certification for testing cybersecurity functions, SD-WAN to check application performance, and then finally Zero Trust for checking application for policies and authentication authorization for users, devices, and so on, machines, and people. I said that. But anyways, okay, so that is really, really important, and it's a continuous test. That's not like a test once and it's over. And we have a score. So we don't say pass, fail, we say here's your score, everything from a AAA at the highest to the lowest, I think a double D or triple D. But you know, everybody now wants to jump to the top left, to AAA, which is great. We want all the vendors, all the ecosystem to be certified at the AAAs. And today I'm pleased to announce we have 15 providers and vendors that are SASE certified. So kudos, give a hand to all of these vendors, all these providers, providing a really amazing service. So it's been 2 years in the journey, and it's been a lot of testing, and I'm really, really proud. And we have other vendors that continue to test. And now I like to say this program, SD-WAN and SASE, is open for GA. So any of you providers, any of you vendors want to jump in, it's now open for GA. So that's one takeaway. The second takeaway I want to talk about is we implemented over 8 years APIs, and it's been a long, long journey, and finally we've come to the completion. And our APIs were originally designed for inter-provider, so where we started, we call it Sonata, and we really started that and created the beachhead there. But now we've also released the enterprise, the same APIs, and I'll talk about that in detail. And these are the APIs. We took, you know, from the 60 plus TM-Forum APIs, we took them, we took 20 plus, we modified them for specific use cases we believe that were very important. I won't get into details. And we generated out of those our own APIs, we call them MEF-LSO APIs. But we followed the idea of the principles of TM-Forum, that they're what we call polymorphic, which means that the APIs, they don't care what service or product you're talking about. What you had on top of that is what you call these schemas, these product or service schemas. So I'm proud to say we've done quite a bit, obviously carry Ethernet IP, but in the last little while we've got this project that it's on the press release called Payload Factories. So we're now building up payloads, pre-standard payloads, every 2 weeks, month. We can bring them out so fast now, it's crazy. And it's such a great to see this, that we can put these payloads on these APIs for any kind of service that you can think about. And there's some year coming soon also. So we have wavelengths today, we have fiber coming out, we have SD-WAN today, we obviously have carry Ethernet IP and so on. So you could read what's there and what's coming out. And this is a really important inflection point for MEF, because it took us 7 years to get the APIs right, and now we can build out payloads really, really fast. So we have a payload factory that can do this, and we can now build out on our NaaS ecosystem any service to be automated. So very, very happy about this. Finally, we released in April our enterprise-facing APIs. Same APIs you see there, maybe with little different payloads like subscriber Ethernet versus operator Ethernet. And these are business operational APIs. So the business of quote, ordering, billing, those are the business aspects. Operationals is all about, you know, provisioning, service testing, performance management, fault management, trouble ticketing. So all of that's all available, as you saw on the other slide. It's now available to the enterprise. Enterprise can use this standard APIs. They don't have to have different APIs for every provider that you talk to. This is all available. And additionally, we announced today with our Enterprise Leadership Council, which you'll hear about today, I think 16 major multinationals who have actually described what they want, which is an automation where when there's an instance of maintenance issue, that basically it's done in an API and sent to their automation system, the enterprise, who can use analytics and decide what to do with it, how to route it, how to describe whether it's really service impairment or if it's something else. So it's a really great API, and it's available today. You can get it from the MEF.net or the LSO.MEF.net, which is our marketplace. So very, very powerful. So that's the big takeaway, that, you know, the 3 big takeaways I'd like you to leave with: enterprise APIs, the LSO ecosystem of all our assets, and finally the SASE certification. Now, where are we going with this in 2025 and beyond? We had a really great board, TAB, ELC, a leadership discussion yesterday for an hour and a half, and it was a really fruitful discussion. I'll give you a little bit of the background of this. So number one, we believe that enterprises, as we just talked about, want to interact with networks, just like talked about SIM. They want automation systems, their developers, their applications to interact with the network. So this idea of Chimera, if you've heard of Chimera, was a 5G initiative to allow developers of 5G to interact with the 5G network. We think it goes beyond that into wired networks also, and we believe this idea of network APIs, they call them network APIs is the lingo they use in Chimera and the industry. We believe that our NaaS has to also embellish network APIs. So network APIs become very, very important, and so we are announcing next year a cybersecurity alert service, which I think is going to be very powerful. So when there's something known in the enterprise of some kind of threat, they can alert the provider, where when the provider sees a threat, they can alert the enterprise. And of course, the details have to be worked out. The ELC is working through the requirements, what that will look like in the API. I think this is very much like the Amber Alert, if people are from North America, very powerful, very impactful, and I think this will be very impactful. So this will be our first venture into this. We will also work with wired and wireless use cases for Chimera, and we're working on that too, so you'll see that more next year, so stay tuned. The next one is, I think Nan talked about the federation, and I want you to think about the federation not as a closed system of a boys club or anything like that. It's really interconnecting the enterprise, the providers, and the whole supply chain, because everybody depends on everybody to do this, because no one has everything done and baked in a global scale. So what we're saying is join together, use all the MEF assets, all our standards, all our SDKs, all our APIs, all our certifications, including our API certification coming out, and basically use that as the assets to build out this huge ecosystem that joins the planet for all of these NaaS services that I just described. And so I think that's the opportunity ahead. And then additionally, we know smaller providers don't have the ability to provide some of these services, so we'll partner with smaller providers, with partners that can supply things like test services or at locations, very critical. And so if you don't have a location database for location truth, we'll supply you with a partner that you can use. So for smaller providers, this is important because they can't get on the journey and do it right without this. So we're not saying we MEF are going to do this. We're going to partner to enable the ecosystem to be very strong, very adaptive, and to really get out there and be impactful. So that's very critical. So a big takeaway you'll see in 2025 is all of this coming together. So another area I think is going to be very important is Gen AI. Now, there's some ideas that were talked about at the board, so we didn't quite get to an agreement what that should look like, but all you need to know is that enterprises are bringing Gen AI to all kinds of use cases, and how will that Gen AI models work with NaaS? And so, in 2025, we're gonna, the Commercial and Business Committee that we run in MEF is gonna look at this and describe some of the use cases and bring out some things that we think are important to then build upon. So stay tuned, you wanna get involved, join the Commercial Business Committee, and you can get involved in these use cases. So that'll be a very key point. So that's the end, and I'm gonna have a minute and 24 to have a call to action. So I think this is very important that we have a call to action, because I think it's really at the end of the day, we wanna make impact, and impact has to be done by us doing something important and work in the way that matches and aligns to your business objectives. So the first call to action I'm gonna say is, cybersecurity is top of mind for everybody, our friends, our family, society. So really get your vendors, if your provider, get your vendor certified. If your provider, get certified. If you only have SD-WAN, start with SD-WAN. If you're evolving to SASE or you got SASE, get SASE certified. It's available now. You can go to our website and you can subscribe to it, and all the information's there. So get certified is number one. Number two is enable that cloud-like experience. Your enterprises want to buy your services like a cloud experience. They don't want to wait months or years. They want to do it, in seconds to minutes. So really implement all of our assets, the APIs. We have smart contracts I didn't talk about. which I'm sure you're about today, or maybe the automation summit yesterday. And we have enterprise-facing APIs, we have ecosystem APIs. Implement them. It's there. We're going to release the next release here December. It's our 10th release. These are really high production grade quality. 160 plus providers using them. It works. Just use them, try them, and you'll see it really enables your business. And finally, we want to enable a frictionless experience for your customers. So there's going to be this federation that we're going to keep building upon in 2025. Join the federation. It's an accelerator project called Liquid Glass. You can talk to Daniel Barlev or go on our website, and you can join this project to build out this, what we call this federation, or this global ecosystem all coming together to all really enable this NaaS as an end-to-end global service. So with that, I didn't disappear off stage, so I stayed, but that's Sal's problem. He didn't do the magic trick right, so. Okay, but thank you all.